What if the freedom you've been searching for has been waiting inside you all along, quietly calling through the noise of daily life? Today, the doorway opens. Step across the threshold. You are ready, because your freedom era begins in this very moment. Since the dawn of time, humans have carried chains unseen, forged not from iron, but from fear, doubt, and forgotten truths. Generations have walked through life mistaking survival for living, mistaking comfort for freedom, mistaking silence for peace. Yet within you, within all of us, resides an untamed force longing to awaken. Freedom is not granted by governments, not purchased with wealth, not bestowed by another's hand. Freedom is born when you reclaim the power of your own mind, heart, and spirit. It is a sacred alignment where your inner truth dances without restraint in the world around you. This audiobook is not a collection of lessons. It is a map to remembrance. Each word carries the essence of ancient wisdom and modern awakening, woven together to guide you back to yourself. The freedom era is more than a season of life. It is the rebirth of your authentic power. It is the sacred moment when you stop waiting for permission and begin living as the sovereign creator of your destiny. As you journey through these chapters, you will uncover the hidden programs that have kept you bound, the ancestral echoes still shaping your path, and the infinite possibilities that emerge when you dare to step beyond limitation. You will learn to master your subconscious mind, release inherited patterns, amplify your energy, and step into the infinite playground of creation. You are not here by accident. You are listening because the call has already reached your soul. The freedom era is not coming someday. It starts today, in this breath, in this sacred now. Chapter 1: The Call of Liberation. In a windswept village by the edge of the sea, a boy named Isander lived beneath the watchful gaze of cliffs that seemed carved by eternity itself. From childhood, he had heard a faint sound that no one else seemed to notice. It was not the cry of gulls, nor the rushing of waves, but a steady whisper rising through the silence like a voice from within. "You are more than this," it said, soft but insistent, always present in moments when his heart dared to dream. Yet when Isander told the villagers of this strange call, they laughed kindly. "It is the wind," they said, "nothing more." And so, year after year, he tried to silence it, drowning it beneath the rhythm of ordinary living, mending nets, hauling boats, following the tide as all before him had done. Still, the whisper returned, always at dusk, when the last light bled into the ocean and the boundary between day and night dissolved. The call of liberation begins in much the same way for you. Not as thunder crashing across the sky, but as a subtle knowing that life is asking something greater of you. It is the quiet discomfort you feel when following a path not truly yours. The weight in your chest when your soul longs to speak, but your lips remain silent. This call is both question and answer, seed and harvest. It will not abandon you, no matter how many times you try to deny its existence. Isander's turning point came one night as he lay awake in his small hut. He felt the whisper not in his ears, but in his bones, as though the very marrow of his being had begun to hum with ancient remembrance. Rising from his bed, he walked barefoot across the cold stones to the edge of the sea. There, beneath the vastness of stars, he spoke aloud. "If this voice is real, then show me who I truly am." The ocean did not reply with words, but a wave surged higher than any he had seen before, drenching him in salt and moonlight. And in that instant he knew. Freedom was not to be found in waiting for permission from others. Freedom began the moment he answered the call within. So too must you respond. For the whisper you feel is not fantasy, but the signal of your own soul guiding you toward sovereignty. Each time you silence it, your chains grow heavier. Each time you honor it, the world reshapes itself in your favor. Ancient practice of answering the call. Before sleep, lie still and close your eyes. Place your hand upon your chest and ask silently, "What is the voice within me saying?" Breathe slowly and listen. Do not force an answer. Simply trust that the whisper will grow clearer each night. With time, the call will no longer be faint. It will rise like a tide, impossible to ignore, guiding you toward your freedom. The call of liberation has already begun for you. The fact that you are here, reading, listening, receiving, is proof that your soul has knocked upon the doorway of destiny, and once heard, it can never be unheard. The only question remains, will you step through? Chapter 2. Breaking Invisible Chains. Long ago, in a city surrounded by high stone walls, there lived a merchant named Selvara. She carried keys to every storeroom, every vault, every hidden chamber of her thriving trade. Yet though she could unlock treasures, she remained blind to the greatest prison of all, the one inside her mind. Each morning, Selvara rose before dawn, not from joy, but from duty. Her steps were measured, her gestures controlled, her laughter rare. For though her body walked freely through the marketplace, her spirit dragged shackles forged of unseen iron. The chains were her beliefs. I must never fail. I am unworthy unless I please others. My worth is measured by wealth alone. You too may know these chains, though they take subtler forms. Expectations placed upon you by family, the weight of cultural rules, the hidden agreements you never consciously signed. They are not nailed to your skin, yet they bind you tighter than steel. The most dangerous prisons are the ones we cannot see, for we mistake them as natural, believing this is just how life must be. One evening, Selvara dreamt of walking through her city with heavy manacles dragging at her wrists and ankles. The people around her were free, yet she was bound. In her dream, she cried out, "Why can I not walk like them?" A figure cloaked in gold replied, "The chains you wear have no lock. They exist only because you continue to believe in them." She awoke trembling, yet in that trembling came realization. The first step to freedom is not breaking the chains, but seeing them. For until you recognize the false beliefs and inherited fears that hold you, you cannot release them. Awareness is the master key. Ancient practice of revealing the chains. Each night before sleep, write 3 beliefs you carry about yourself. They may seem small. I am not good enough. I must always struggle. I cannot change. Hold each belief in your mind, then gently whisper, "This is not my truth." Tear the paper, scatter the fragments, and feel the invisible shackles dissolve as you drift into dreams. Selvara, having recognized her invisible chains, began to walk differently. She dared to laugh in the market. She dared to speak her truth, even when her voice trembled. And as she released belief after belief, she felt lighter, freer, more alive than she had ever known. So it will be with you. The invisible chains are not your destiny. They are illusions. Once seen, they lose their power. Once released, you walk into the vast fields of sovereignty where no wall can contain you. Chapter 3. The Sovereign Mind. In a distant land of deserts and stars lived a scholar named Amiel. He studied ancient scrolls by firelight, seeking wisdom to understand the human spirit. Yet despite all his knowledge, he remained restless, for his thoughts ran wild like unbroken horses. One moment they carried him toward dreams of greatness. The next they dragged him into valleys of despair. Amiel discovered a truth etched in fading ink upon a crumbling parchment. The mind, when mastered, is the first kingdom of freedom. The mind, when unruled, is the harshest tyrant. Consider your own thoughts. How many are truly yours? How many are echoes from teachers, parents, strangers, the endless hum of society? Your mind is sacred soil, yet too often it is seeded by others' hands. To reclaim sovereignty, you must become gardener and guardian both. Amiel began each dawn by sitting in stillness, watching his thoughts as clouds drifting across an endless sky. At first, he felt helpless, overwhelmed by storms of worry and winds of doubt. Yet he persisted. He learned that thoughts are not commands, but visitors. He could welcome those that nourished him, and dismiss those that sought to enslave him. Ancient practice of mind sovereignty. Before sleep, close your eyes and imagine your mind as a vast hall. Each thought enters as a figure. Some wear cloaks of fear, others shine with light. As they appear, speak aloud within, I choose which thoughts remain. Allow only those that honor your freedom to stay. Watch the rest vanish into mist. Drift into slumber with a kingdom ruled by clarity and strength. In time, Amiel's restless thoughts became loyal allies. His mind, once a battlefield, transformed into a throne room where wisdom reigned. With this mastery, he no longer feared the pull of doubt or the weight of judgment. He had discovered what you are now ready to know. The sovereign mind creates a sovereign life. Freedom begins not in the world outside you, but in the chamber of thought within. Rule your mind with love, and the world will follow. Chapter 4. The Sacred Power of Choice. In the heart of an ancient kingdom, where palaces glittered beneath golden suns, lived a young scribe named Elowin. From dawn until dusk, she copied the words of kings and priests, recording their decrees in careful ink. Though her hand was steady, her heart was heavy, for she felt herself a shadow of life rather than its author. One evening, as she walked home through the lantern-lit streets, she came upon an old woman seated on the steps of a crumbling temple. The woman's eyes glowed with an ageless fire. She beckoned Elowin closer and placed a single stone in her hand. "This," she whispered, "is choice. You may cast it into the river, leave it upon the ground, or place it upon the altar. The act is small, yet it shapes the world in ways unseen. Do not forget, choice is the first spark of freedom." That night, Elowin lay awake, turning the stone in her palm. She realized that she had lived her life as though she were powerless, as though each day's script had been written by others. Yet in truth, every breath carried decision, the choice to speak or remain silent, to move or stay still, to create or to wither. Choice was not grand decree, it was the quiet thread from which destiny was woven. You too stand each day with a stone in your hand. Perhaps you have forgotten this sacred power, believing life to be the sum of fate, circumstance, or the will of others. Yet your freedom begins not with sweeping rebellion, but with conscious selection of each moment. You choose the thoughts to nurture, the words to release, the paths to follow. The illusion is that choice is scarce. In truth, it is infinite. Every pause, every gesture, every turning of your inner gaze is choice. By claiming this truth, you step out of victimhood and into sovereignty. Ancient practice of choosing. Before sleep tonight, recall 3 moments of your day when you acted unconsciously, as though carried by a current not your own. Write them down. Then, for each, whisper aloud, "Next time, I choose with awareness." Visualize yourself remaking these choices with clarity. Feel the power return to your chest, your breath, your being. Fall asleep with the stone of choice resting in your hand or beneath your pillow, reminding your subconscious that you are always the author of your path. Elowin kept her stone, placing it on her writing desk. Each day she asked herself, "Will I write only the words of others, or will I write my own?" Slowly, her pages filled with visions, dreams, and truths born of her own heart. The stone remained small, but it carried the weight of her freedom. So too with you. Each choice, no matter how small, reshapes the world. Freedom is not found in distant revolutions, but in the quiet sovereignty of choosing, moment by moment, to live as your truest self. Chapter 5. Ancestral Shadows, Ancestral Strengths. Beneath the earth of every village lie the bones of ancestors, silent yet not voiceless. In a forest valley, a farmer named Marcellus lived haunted by patterns he could not explain. Though his fields were fertile, his crops often failed. Though he worked tirelessly, prosperity always slipped from his grasp. He thought himself cursed, yet the truth was deeper than he knew. One night, exhausted, Marcellus dreamed of walking through a hall lit by torches. Along the walls hung portraits of his lineage, faces both proud and sorrowful. Each ancestor stepped from their frame, whispering words into his ear. Some offered blessings. "You carry our strength, our resilience." Others spoke burdens. "You carry our fear of failure, our grief, our silence." He woke trembling, realizing that he lived not only his own story, but also echoes of generations before him. You too carry within your blood both shadows and strengths of those who walked before you. Science names this inheritance epigenetics, yet the ancients knew it long ago. Patterns unhealed pass forward until one rises to transform them. The doubts you feel, the fears that return like old ghosts, may not have begun with you. Yet the gifts you hold, the courage, the persistence, the love, flow from ancestral rivers as well. Freedom requires not only breaking your own chains, but releasing those forged in centuries past. You are both heir and alchemist, called to honor the wisdom of your lineage while transmuting its wounds. Ancient practice of ancestral liberation. Before sleep, place a symbol of your family lineage near you. A photograph, an heirloom, or simply your own heartbeat. Speak aloud. "To my ancestors, I honor your gifts. I release your pain. I choose freedom for us all." Visualize a golden light traveling backward through time, healing old wounds, illuminating forgotten strengths. Let this light flow into your dreams, connecting you to the vast river of wisdom behind you. Marcellus began each evening by thanking his grandmother for her resilience, his grandfather for his hands that built tools, and countless unnamed ancestors for their survival. He then released their fears, whispering, "Your battles end with me. I carry your love forward, but I lay down your sorrow." In time, his crops flourished, his prosperity grew, and he felt no longer cursed, but chosen. As the one who broke the cycle, so too are you chosen. By acknowledging both the shadows and strengths of those who came before, you weave a new destiny. You are not only your own story, you are the flowering of a lineage, freed at last through your courage. Chapter 6. The Freedom Frequency. In a mountain village where bells rang across the valleys, a musician named Leontine played her lute each evening. Yet though her fingers were skilled, her songs carried sorrow. Birds flew from her strings, but storms followed in their wings. She wondered why her life mirrored her music, heavy with longing, thin with joy. One night, an elder monk visited her, listening in silence as she played. When she finished, he said only, "Your notes are true, but your frequency is bound. Change the song within, and the world without will follow." He handed her a tuning fork that rang with a pure golden tone. "This," he said, "is the frequency of freedom. Strike it often. Let your soul remember." Every being carries an energetic signature, a vibration broadcast into the universe. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are not hidden. They radiate, attracting experiences of equal resonance. This is why anger breeds conflict, why gratitude breeds abundance. Your freedom is not merely a state of mind, but a frequency of being. Leontine began striking the tuning fork before she played, allowing its vibration to settle into her body. Slowly, her music shifted. It lifted like wings catching the wind. Soon, her life mirrored the melody. Joy returned, opportunities blossomed, love flowed. The freedom frequency had retuned her destiny. Ancient practice of tuning the self. Before sleep, sit in silence and imagine your body as an instrument. Ask yourself, what note am I broadcasting? Fear, doubt, joy, freedom. Then visualize a golden vibration surrounding you, lifting you into alignment with liberation itself. Whisper 3 times, I am tuned to freedom. Feel the resonance hum through your bones as you drift into dreams. Leontine became known not for sorrow, but for songs that set hearts alight. Villagers said her music carried the sound of liberation itself. And so it will be with you. By tuning your frequency, you call forth a life that mirrors freedom in every form. Remember, the universe responds not to your wishes, but to your vibration. Sing the frequency of freedom, and freedom will answer. Chapter 7. Unmasking Fear's Disguise. In the ancient desert kingdom of Illyros, there lived a warrior named Seraphil, known for her unmatched strength in battle. She fought valiantly, yet when the clash of swords ended and the battlefield grew quiet, she felt a trembling in her heart that she could not name. The villagers called her fearless, but she knew the truth. Her victories were veils. Beneath them lived shadows she dared not face. One evening, while wandering into the ruins of a forgotten temple, Seraphil encountered a hooded figure seated before a broken altar. His face was hidden, his presence unsettling. She raised her weapon, prepared to defend herself, but the figure merely said, "Why do you carry me everywhere, warrior?" Confused, she demanded, "Who are you?" Slowly, he removed his hood, and she saw her own face staring back at her. "I am Fear," the figure whispered, "the companion you cannot kill, only understand." Seraphil lowered her sword, realizing that she had mistaken Fear as an enemy when it was truly a messenger. She saw then that her trembling was not weakness, it was guidance. Fear had always walked beside her, warning her where she was blind, urging her toward the very edges of growth. It was not a chain, but a signpost, showing her where her liberation waited. So too with you. Fear wears disguises. It may appear as hesitation, as anger, as endless distraction. It whispers lies of limitation. You are not ready. You are not worthy. You will fail. But beneath these masks, fear is nothing more than the echo of your unclaimed power. What frightens you most often conceals the doorway to freedom. Consider this. Where does your body tremble? Where does your voice falter? These are not signals of avoidance, but invitations. The very thing you fear most is the field where your sovereignty waits to be planted. Fear is not the jailer, it is the map. Ancient practice of unmasking fear. Before sleep, write down one fear that has followed you today. Hold the paper to your chest and whisper, "I see you. You are not my enemy. Show me the path you guard." Then burn the paper or place it beneath your pillow. As you sleep, trust that your subconscious will reveal the hidden wisdom behind the mask. Dreams may bring images, symbols, or feelings that point to the deeper truth. Seraphil, once she embraced fear as guide, fought no longer to silence it. Instead, she asked, "What lesson do you bring?" And in return, fear softened, revealing strengths she had forgotten: courage, clarity, and the will to rise. She became not a warrior against fear, but a warrior guided by its light. So it must be with you. Do not exile fear. Look into its eyes. Ask it to reveal the door it guards. For every fear conceals a treasure, and when you unmask it, you discover freedom hidden in plain sight. Chapter 8. The Body as a Temple of Freedom. In a lush valley where rivers shimmered like liquid crystal, a healer named Isolde tended to those who came burdened with ailments of body and spirit. Yet despite her wisdom, she herself carried pain, a heaviness in her chest that no herb or prayer could soothe. She realized one night, gazing at the moon reflected in still water, that she had been treating her body as servant, never as sanctuary. The ancients knew that the body is not merely flesh, but a temple through which the soul expresses its freedom. every tension held, every wound ignored, every word unspoken imprints itself into the muscles and bones like carvings upon stone. If the mind is the throne, the body is the sacred chamber. Yet too often, we abandon this temple, forcing it into silence while we chase dreams outside ourselves. Isolde began listening to her body as though it were a wise elder. Each ache became a message, each tightness a story waiting to be told. She discovered that the pain in her chest was grief she had never wept. The tension in her shoulders, the weight of responsibilities she'd carried alone. When she honored these messages, her body softened, her temple shone again with light. So too for you. Your body is not an obstacle, but a sacred ally. Freedom requires not only liberated thoughts, but liberated cells. To ignore the body is to ignore half of your sovereignty. When you stretch, when you breathe deeply, when you rest in stillness, you are not indulging. You are worshiping at the altar of your own temple. Ancient practice of temple care. Before sleep, place one hand upon your heart and another upon your belly. Whisper aloud, I honor this temple. Show me what you hold. Then breathe slowly, feeling any sensations rise. If you notice tension, acknowledge it with gratitude. If memories surface, welcome them as sacred visitors. Visualize your body bathed in golden light, each cell pulsing with freedom. Drift into slumber as though lying in the holiest sanctuary, for that is what you are. Isolde's pain dissolved not through medicine, but through reverence. Her healing work deepened, for she no longer saw bodies as broken, but as temples longing to be honored. And as she taught others to listen, her valley flourished with people who walked lighter, laughed louder, lived freer. Remember, your freedom cannot bloom if your temple is neglected. To walk in sovereignty, you must honor not only your spirit, but the sacred vessel that carries it. Treat your body as holy ground, and it will carry you into liberation. Chapter 9. The Breath That Breaks Chains. High in the mountains where the air grew thin and sharp, lived a hermit named Tavor who spoke rarely, yet whose presence radiated peace. Pilgrims climbed great distances to ask his wisdom, hoping for secret rituals or hidden mantras, yet he offered them only this: breathe. Many left disappointed, unable to see how something so simple could hold such power. But those who stayed discovered the truth. Breath is the first and final freedom. From the moment you enter this world until you leave it, every inhale and exhale is a reminder that life flows through you. Yet in the rush of days, most forget to breathe deeply, living as though shackled to shallow gasps. This shallow breath keeps the body tense, the mind clouded, the spirit confined. Tavor taught that every chain of fear, doubt, or sorrow could be loosened with breath. When you feel bound, he said, inhale as though drawing the entire sky into your chest. Exhale as though releasing lifetimes of weight. Breath is the bridge between bondage and freedom. One night, a young woman arrived at his hut, weeping from grief she could not release. Tavor guided her to breathe with him, slow, deliberate, expansive. With each inhale, she felt space opening inside her. With each exhale, she felt sorrow flowing out like smoke. By dawn, her tears had dried, not from repression but from release. She bowed to Tavor and whispered, "My chains have broken." He only smiled. "It was never me. It was your breath." So too must you remember, freedom is always one breath away. When your mind spirals into fear, pause and breathe. When your heart feels heavy, breathe. When life feels constricted, breathe. Each breath is a key, unlocking doors you believed were sealed. Ancient practice of liberating breath. Before sleep, lie flat and place your hands on your ribs. Inhale deeply, expanding your belly and chest. Hold the breath for a moment, feeling it stretch the chains within. Exhale slowly, whispering, "I release." Repeat 10 times, imagining each exhale carrying away fear, doubt, and pain. As you drift into slumber, let your breath guide you into dreams of limitless freedom. The hermit Tavor never wrote books nor built temples, yet his teachings spread across generations, carried by those who remembered the sacred art of breath. His disciples said he lived beyond a century, not because he sought longevity, but because he honored each inhale as divine. Remember, your breath is not ordinary. It is the sacred wind that animates the temple of your body, the river that washes away chains unseen. When you learn to breathe with awareness, you rediscover the simplest, most profound truth. Freedom is always within you, waiting at the edge of your next inhale. Chapter 10. The Mirror of Self-Sovereignty. In the city of Calaris, famed for its glassmakers, there lived a woman named Aniora, who avoided mirrors. Though her home was filled with polished surfaces and gleaming reflections, she passed them quickly, unwilling to meet her own gaze. To others, she was accomplished, admired, even envied. Yet in her heart she feared what she might see if she looked too deeply into her own eyes. One evening, while walking through the market, she encountered a traveling sage who carried no wares but a single round mirror wrapped in linen. He pressed it into her hands and said, "Until you see yourself clearly, you will never walk freely. This mirror does not reveal the face. It reveals the truth." Aniora hesitated but unwrapped the gift. For the first time she stared without looking away. At first she saw only the familiar contours of her face. But then beneath the surface, shadows appeared. Moments of shame, words unspoken, wounds carried. She wanted to turn away, yet the sage's voice echoed, "The sovereign life begins not by ruling others, but by ruling oneself. The throne of sovereignty is built upon self-trust." To live free is to know yourself without masks. It is to meet your reflection and see not flaw nor pretense, but the eternal self gazing back. Yet so many live in exile from themselves, relying on others' approval, chained by fear of rejection. They forget that no permission is needed to love what they are. Aniora began a nightly ritual. She stood before the mirror by candlelight and whispered 3 truths. "I honor my journey. I trust my path. I love the one I see." Slowly, the shadows in her reflection softened. In time, she no longer feared her own gaze. Instead, she saw a queen, sovereign, unshakable, free. So too for you. The greatest prison is self-doubt, the belief that you must earn your worthiness. But sovereignty means knowing you are already enough. When you trust yourself, when you honor your reflection, the world itself bends to your authenticity. Ancient practice of the sovereign mirror. Before sleep, sit before a mirror in dim light. Look into your eyes, not as critic, but as witness. Speak 3 declarations of sovereignty. I am enough. I trust myself. I honor my truth. Then place your hand on the glass as though sealing a covenant with your reflection. Sleep with this feeling, letting your subconscious carry the vibration of self-sovereignty into your dreams. Aniora became known not for her wealth or influence, but for the radiance she carried wherever she walked. People said her eyes shone with unshakable certainty, as though she saw beyond the world's illusions. They were right. She had discovered the freedom no one could take, the freedom of self-sovereignty. Chapter 11. The Currency of Freedom. Far to the east, in a city of endless bazaars, lived a merchant named Darius. His stalls overflowed with silks, spices, and jewels, yet his heart was restless. He counted coins daily, fearing their loss, binding his soul to numbers that never satisfied. Though he held wealth, he did not hold freedom. One day a beggar approached him, holding out an empty bowl. Darius sneered, "I have worked for my fortune. Why should I share with you?" The beggar replied softly, "Because wealth held in fear is poverty in disguise. Freedom does not come from coins, it comes from flow. That night, Darius dreamt of walking through a market, where every stall-keeper traded not with coins, but with light. People exchanged laughter for bread, kindness for shelter, creativity for gold. The marketplace thrived not because of hoarded wealth, but because of the abundance flowing freely between hearts. He awoke shaken, realizing that he had mistaken possession for prosperity. You too have been taught to see wealth as chains of metal or slips of paper. Yet true abundance is energy, a current that flows where attention and gratitude are given. When you hoard it, fear grows. When you allow it to circulate with trust, freedom expands. The currency of freedom is not money alone, but love, time, creativity, and trust. Every choice you make is a transaction with the universe. Do you spend your energy on fear or faith? On limitation or possibility? The wealth you experience is a reflection of the frequency you carry. Darius began giving freely, a loaf of bread to a stranger, a coin to a child, a silk scarf to a weary traveler. Each time he gave, he felt lighter. Strangely, his business flourished more than ever. He realized that generosity was not loss, but investment in the infinite current of abundance. Ancient practice of flowing wealth. Before sleep, place 3 coins or tokens beside your bed. Whisper aloud, "I release fear of lack. I flow with abundance." Imagine these tokens glowing with golden light, expanding into rivers of prosperity surrounding you. In the morning, give one of the coins away in gratitude, a symbolic act of flowing with abundance. Keep this practice nightly to remind your subconscious that freedom is born not of hoarding, but of trusting the current. Darius died not only wealthy in coin, but rich in love, surrounded by a community who said, "His generosity freed us all." He had discovered the secret that freedom is not how much you own, but how fully you trust in the infinite circulation of abundance. Chapter 12. Time Unbound. Beyond the mountains, in a monastery carved into cliffs, monks devoted their lives to mastering the flow of time. Among them was a novice named Eleron, who lived in constant worry. He mourned the past, fearing mistakes he could not change. He obsessed over the future, anxious for outcomes yet unseen. Though his days were peaceful, his mind was bound by clocks. One evening his teacher handed him an hourglass and said, "Tell me, where is the sand? Is it in the top, in the bottom, or in the falling? When you cling to past or future, you miss the truth. The only grain of sand that exists is the one falling now." Eleron stared at the hourglass and realized he had never truly inhabited the present. His body lived in the monastery, but his spirit drifted endlessly between regrets and anticipations. He saw that time itself was not his captor, it was his relationship to it. Freedom begins when you release the tyranny of clocks and enter the eternal present. The past is a dream remembered, the future a dream imagined. Only this moment is alive. To dwell here fully is to step into timelessness where fear cannot touch you and creation flows freely. Eleron practiced sitting by the hourglass, watching each grain fall without thought of what had passed or what was to come. In these moments his chest opened, his breath slowed, and he felt infinite. He discovered that 1 second lived fully contained more eternity than a lifetime spent elsewhere. Ancient practice of timeless presence. Before sleep, sit in silence for 5 minutes. With each breath, whisper, "Only now exists." As thoughts of past or future arise, imagine them as grains of sand slipping through your fingers. Release them gently, returning to the present. When you lie in bed, feel your breath, your heartbeat, your body resting. Let this be your anchor to now. Drift into sleep carrying no past regret, no future worry, only the timeless presence of freedom. Eleron's life unfolded with serenity. While others rushed, he moved with grace. While others feared the unknown, he walked in trust. People said he lived twice as long as his years, for each moment he touched became infinite. So it is for you. The chains of time fall away when you realize that only now is real. In the eternal present, you are free, forever unbound. Chapter 13. The Freedom of Desire. In a coastal town where fishermen lived by the rhythm of tides, there was a woman named Thalia, who silenced her heart's longings. From childhood, she had been told that desire was dangerous, that wanting too much was greedy, that contentment meant never reaching for more than what she already had. She grew to believe that her yearning was a flaw, so she buried it deep inside, like a flame hidden beneath cold ashes. Yet at night, as she lay beneath the weight of the stars, dreams pulled at her, visions of painting great murals, of traveling beyond the horizon, of dancing barefoot in moonlit fields. In her dreams she was free, but in waking life she scolded herself, "Be grateful for what you have. Do not ask for more." One evening, a wandering bard arrived in the village. His songs were fierce, filled with longing for adventure, love, and wonder. When Thalia asked him how he dared to want so boldly, he laughed. "Desire is not a chain," he said. "It is a compass. The universe whispers to you through the things you long for. To reject your desire is to reject your destiny." That night, Thalia sat awake and listened to her heart. For the first time, she did not silence her longings. She wrote them down, to paint, to travel, to love fully. As she read the words aloud, she felt the spark within her ashes stir, glowing brighter with each confession. She realized that her desires were not enemies. They were her guides, pointing her toward the life she was born to live. You, too, may have been told that desire is selfish, that you must be content with little. But this is the language of fear, not freedom. Desire is sacred energy, the breath of creation itself moving through you. Every longing you carry is a thread of destiny, calling you toward your highest path. To deny desire is to deny life. The truth is this: desire does not create suffering. Resistance to desire does. When you allow yourself to want fully and without shame, you open the gates of possibility. You step into the current of your freedom, guided by the compass of your heart. Ancient practice of honoring desire. Before sleep, place a journal beside your bed. Write 3 desires of your heart, small or vast. It does not matter. Do not judge them. Simply honor them by giving them breath in words. Then close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and whisper, "My desires are sacred. They guide me to freedom." Drift into slumber, letting your subconscious weave pathways toward the life you dare to long for. Thalia followed her compass. She began painting upon the walls of her home, colors bursting into life. She sold her catch of fish not for survival, but to save for travel. Soon she was living the life she once only dreamed. Her flame no longer hid in ashes. It blazed openly, guiding others to embrace their desires as sacred. So too for you, do not bury your yearnings. They are not chains, they are maps. Follow them, and they will lead you into the wide fields of freedom. Chapter 14. The Language of Liberation. In a kingdom where words carried weight as real as stone, there was a poet named Lorien. His verses once overflowed with beauty. Yet over the years he began to speak carelessly, filling his life with phrases of defeat. "I cannot. I am not enough. Life is cruel." He repeated these words until they became bars in a cage he could not see. One night, weary of his despair, he wandered into the forest, where he met an elder woman weaving threads of light between her fingers. She told him, "Every word you speak is a spell. Your tongue is a wand, your speech a charm. If you speak chains, you bind yourself. If you speak freedom, you set yourself free." Awestruck, Lorien began to listen to himself. He noticed how often his words declared limitation, how easily he cursed his own path with phrases of lack. Determined to change, he began a practice. Each morning he spoke only words of possibility. I am capable, I am worthy. Life flows with abundance. Slowly his world shifted. Doors opened where once there were walls, and his poems returned, flowing with a new language of liberation. You too may not realize the weight your sure words carry. The universe does not distinguish between a casual complaint and a sacred declaration. It responds to the vibration you release. Your words are living seeds. Each time you say, I cannot, you plant a field of limitation. Each time you say, I am able, you sow freedom. The truth is this: your reality echoes the language you speak most often. To step into freedom, you must speak freedom, both aloud and within. Ancient practice of word alchemy. Before sleep, recall 3 phrases you spoke today that diminished your power. Write them down, then cross them out and rewrite them as words of sovereignty. For example, I am unlucky becomes, I walk with divine timing. Whisper these liberating words 3 times before closing your eyes. Allow them to echo in your dreams, programming your subconscious with the language of freedom. Lorien's poems grew so powerful that they healed sorrow in the hearts of all who heard them. Villagers said his words carried wings, lifting them beyond despair. He no longer spoke chains. He spoke liberation, and in doing so, he lived it. So must you. Guard your words as sacred spells. Speak freedom into being, and freedom will answer with the life you create. Chapter 15. The Alchemy of Emotion. In the mountains where storms rolled like living giants, there lived a blacksmith named Calder. He forged weapons of strength but carried a furnace of rage within. His anger frightened him, so he tried to suppress it, locking it away until it boiled over, burning him and those around him. One evening, in despair, he left his forge and sought the guidance of a hermit, rumored to live in the caves above. The hermit greeted him not with judgment, but with fire. He held a piece of raw ore in his hand and said, "This is like your anger, unrefined, heavy, unyielding, but place it in the furnace with intention, and it becomes a sword, a tool, a work of art. Emotion is not your enemy. It is your alchemy." Calder began to see that his feelings, rage, grief, longing, were not curses, but raw energies waiting to be transformed. He returned to his forge, but instead of suppressing his emotions, he poured them into his work. His rage became strength, his grief became compassion, his longing became beauty. Soon his creations were unlike any seen before, weapons that felt alive, tools that sang with spirit, works of art forged from the alchemy of his soul. You too carry emotions you may fear, anger, sorrow, fear itself. But these are not signs of weakness. They are powerful currents of energy. When resisted, they consume you. When embraced with intention, they transform into fuel for creation and growth. Freedom is not the absence of emotion, but mastery of it. The truth is this: every feeling is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be transmuted. With awareness, you can turn pain into wisdom, anger into power, grief into love. This is emotional alchemy, the art of transforming what once bound you into the very force that frees you. Ancient practice of emotional alchemy. Before sleep, close your eyes and identify the strongest emotion you feel. Do not push it away. Imagine it as a glowing piece of ore in your hands. Whisper, "I honor this feeling." Transform it into freedom. Visualize placing the ore into a golden fire, watching it change form into light, love, or strength. Let this vision carry you into dreams, where your subconscious continues the sacred alchemy of transmutation. Calder's forge became legendary not because of the iron he shaped, but because of the energy he infused. People traveled from distant lands to feel the liberation his creations carried. He no longer feared his emotions. He mastered them. and through mastery, he found freedom. So it must be with you. Do not run from what you feel. Honor it, transmute it, let it guide you. For within every shadow of emotion lies the fire that forges your liberation. Chapter 16. The Freedom Rituals. In the valley of Lissara, people lived burdened by endless toil, their days blurred together, a cycle of waking, working, and sleeping with little pause for the soul. Among them was a potter named Neriah. Her hands shaped clay into vessels admired across the region, yet her spirit remained weary, her eyes dimmed by exhaustion. She wondered why, despite her craft, life felt devoid of magic. One evening she met a wandering elder who carried no goods, but walked with radiant presence. Neriah asked him, "Why does your face shine as though lit from within?" The elder replied, "Because each day I honor life with ritual. The ordinary becomes sacred when we choose to meet it that way." The elder explained that freedom is not only found in grand awakenings, but in small, deliberate acts that remind the soul of its sovereignty. To wake with gratitude, to light a candle with intention, to speak affirmations before sleep. These simple rituals carve pathways in the subconscious, anchoring freedom into daily life. Neriah began her own practice. Each morning she greeted the rising sun by whispering 3 words of gratitude. As she molded clay, she breathed intention into her work. This vessel carries peace. At night, she lit a lamp and whispered blessings for her dreams. Slowly, her days no longer blurred together. Each moment felt consecrated, and her spirit grew luminous like the elders. You too can transform the ordinary into portals of freedom. A ritual is not superstition, it is repetition infused with sacred meaning. Without rituals, the mind drifts into chains of habit. With them, you reclaim each moment as an act of choice and power. Ancient practice of daily liberation. Before sleep, create a ritual that honors your freedom. Light a candle, place your hand on your chest, and speak 3 affirmations of sovereignty. I walk in freedom. I create in freedom. I rest in freedom. As the flame flickers, imagine your subconscious recording these truths like inscriptions upon stone. Blow out the candle, letting smoke carry your intentions into the unseen, and drift into dreams aligned with liberation. Neriah's village transformed as she shared her rituals. Soon, the weary people of Lissara began to greet their days with reverence and end them with intention. The once burdened valley grew alive with light, laughter, and presence. The villagers discovered that ritual was not a duty, it was the secret door to freedom hidden within the simplest acts of life. So it is with you. Freedom is not only a destination, but a rhythm. Through rituals of the heart, you remind yourself daily, I am sovereign, I am free. Chapter 17. The Dreamer's Compass. Far across the desert plains lived a traveler named Alien. Though he carried maps etched by cartographers and advice gathered from seasoned wanderers, he remained perpetually lost. His journeys led him in circles, his efforts scattered like dust in the wind. One night, exhausted beneath the stars, he prayed for direction. In his dreams, an elder with wings of silver appeared and placed a golden compass in his hand. "This compass does not point north," the figure said. "It points to your truth. Each night you must ask a question, and in dreams, the compass will guide you." When Alien awoke, no compass lay in his hand. Yet he remembered the instruction and began speaking questions aloud before sleep. Where shall I go next? What step should I take? His dreams soon filled with symbols. A river flowing east, a lantern lighting a path, a door swinging open. He followed these visions, and slowly his wandering turned to purposeful journey. You too carry a compass within, hidden in the subconscious mind. When the waking self falters in uncertainty, the dreaming self whispers guidance. Dreams are not random, they are maps written in symbols, navigating you toward the freedom your soul seeks. The conscious mind is bound by logic, But the subconscious speaks in visions, weaving together wisdom that transcends ordinary thought. When you present your questions before sleep, you awaken your dreamer's compass. Your subconscious, free of distraction, works through the night to illuminate your path. Guidance may come as imagery, feelings, or sudden clarity upon waking. Trust it, for in the twilight of dreams, your soul remembers the directions your waking self has forgotten. Ancient practice of dream navigation. Before sleep, sit quietly and form one clear question about your journey. Whisper it 3 times. Show me the way. Close your eyes and visualize holding a golden compass glowing in your hands. Imagine its needle spinning and pointing toward your highest truth. Release the question into the night, trusting that dreams will bring you symbols or feelings of direction. Upon waking, write down whatever you recall, no matter how small. For each fragment is a piece of the map. Elion followed his compass not by rigid logic, but by trusting the language of dreams. His path carried him to lands of beauty, people who welcomed him, and opportunities that aligned with his deepest callings. His journeys became pilgrimages guided by wisdom beyond the waking world. So it must be for you. When uncertainty binds you, turn inward. The dreamer's compass waits each night, ready to guide you toward the landscapes of freedom. All you must do is ask and listen. Chapter 18. Walking Beyond Permission. In the kingdom of Avaren, laws governed every aspect of life. Citizens required permission to plant gardens, to marry, to build homes, even to travel beyond the walls. Among them lived a young artisan named Celine, whose hands longed to carve statues of breathtaking beauty. Yet each time she sought approval from the council, her requests were denied. "Your work is not needed," they said. "Remain in your assigned trade." Celine obeyed, though her soul withered. One night she dreamt of a vast forest where statues of light rose from the earth. A voice thundered, "Why do you wait for permission to become who you already are?" She woke trembling, realizing that her chains were not only the council's decrees, but her own obedience to them. The truth is this: most people live waiting for approval. Permission from parents, teachers, society, even strangers. They ask silently, "Am I allowed to speak? Am I allowed to create? Am I allowed to be free?" Yet sovereignty means no longer waiting for the world to validate your path. The only permission you need is the one you grant yourself. Celine began carving in secret, sculpting by moonlight. At first, fear gripped her. What if she were punished? But as the statues grew, so too did her courage. When the villagers discovered her creations, they were awestruck. Her art became a beacon, showing them that permission granted by others was an illusion. One by one, people began living by their own truth. The kingdom slowly transformed, not through decrees, but through Celine's defiance of waiting. You too have waited long enough. The world does not hold your freedom hostage. The gate has always been open. It is you who must step through. Ancient practice of self-permission. Before sleep, write one truth you have been waiting to live. A dream deferred, a voice silenced, a gift hidden. Hold the paper to your heart and whisper, "I grant myself permission." Place the paper beneath your pillow. As you sleep, imagine your subconscious weaving this permission into every cell of your being, so that when you wake, you walk already free. Celine's legacy spread beyond her kingdom. Travelers carried tales of the statues of light and the woman who sculpted without waiting for consent. Generations later, her name was still spoken as the one who taught her people the sacred truth. You need no one's permission to be who you are, so it is with you. The freedom you seek is not waiting for someone else's approval, it is waiting for your own. Walk beyond permission, and you walk into sovereignty. Chapter 19. The Sacred Fire of Rebellion. In the iron-walled city of Carrion, obedience was worshipped as the highest virtue. Its people walked in straight lines, spoke only when spoken to, and lived lives dictated by rulers who declared that order was freedom. Among them was a blacksmith named Jorah, whose hands were calloused by labor, but whose heart smoldered with a fire he could not name. Every day he forged chains for the city's prisons, each strike of his hammer echoing the rhythm of his own captivity. Though he followed the rules, his spirit grew restless. He saw beauty in disorder, music in laughter, freedom in the unguarded moments when children broke into play. Yet he kept these thoughts hidden, fearing the wrath of those in power. One night, while he hammered late into the darkness, a spark leapt from the forge and landed on his arm. Instead of pain, he felt awakening. In the glowing ember, he saw not destruction, but truth. The fire whispered, "You were not born to build chains. You were born to break them." From that night, Jorah's life transformed. He no longer used his forge to bind, but to liberate. He crafted tools for secret gardens, locks that opened instead of closed, and symbols of rebellion hidden in plain sight. People began to whisper his name in reverence, not because he defied for the sake of defiance, but because he had embraced the sacred fire of rebellion, the courage to refuse what diminished the soul. You too have been taught that rebellion is dangerous, yet rebellion is the flame that clears the old forest so new life can grow. It is not anger alone, but love in its fiercest form, love for truth, love for freedom, love for the soul's rightful sovereignty. Without rebellion, no chain is broken, no new world is born. Ancient practice of awakening the sacred fire. Before sleep, light a candle in a darkened room. Gaze into its flame and whisper, "I ignite the fire of freedom within me." Recall one belief, habit, or rule you have obeyed that does not serve your truth. Imagine placing it into the fire and watching it dissolve into ash. Then close your eyes and see the flame glowing in your chest, a reminder that rebellion is not destruction, but sacred creation. Blow out the candle, knowing the fire within continues to burn through the night. Jorah's rebellion did not topple the cities in a single act. It spread like sparks across dry fields, igniting courage in the hearts of many. His chains became symbols of resistance, his forge a sanctuary of liberation. He showed his people that rebellion, when born from love, is the most sacred fire of all. So it must be for you. Do not fear the fire that stirs within you when faced with injustice, limitation, or suppression. That fire is your soul's reminder. You were not born to submit. You were born to be free. Chapter 20. The Freedom of Relationships. In a seaside village where the tides whispered secrets, a woman named Amara lived bound by love that was not love at all. Her days were spent catering to a husband who controlled her voice, her movements, her very sense of self. He told her, "You are mine," and she believed it, for no one had ever taught her that true love does not chain, it frees. One evening, while gathering shells along the shore, she met an old fisherman mending his nets. Seeing the sadness in her eyes, he said, "Do you know why the fish swim freely, even though my net surrounds them? It is because I do not pull it tight. When the net gives space, the ocean flows through. When love gives space, freedom flows through." His words struck her heart like lightning. That night she dreamed of a vast ocean where she swam without boundaries, her body moving with grace, her soul light as the waves. She awoke with tears, realizing that she had mistaken possession for devotion. She understood then, love that binds is not love, but fear. True love is freedom shared. Relationships, whether of romance, fame, Family or friendship are mirrors of your sovereignty. If they demand that you shrink, silence yourself, or surrender your truth, they are chains. But when they allow you to grow, to expand, to breathe, then they become wings. Freedom does not mean isolation. It means connection without captivity. Amara began to speak her truth. At first, her voice trembled, but with each word, she reclaimed herself. She learned that she could honor love without losing sovereignty. Eventually, her husband's grip loosened, for she no longer fed it. Some bonds fell away, others transformed, but all became aligned with freedom. Ancient practice of sovereign connection. Before sleep, think of one relationship in your life. Ask yourself, does this bond give me space to grow, or does it hold me small? Place your hand over your heart and whisper, I call forth only love that honors freedom. Imagine cords of light connecting you to others. If any feel heavy or binding, visualize them loosening, transforming into radiant threads of mutual freedom. Carry this vision into your dreams, where your subconscious reshapes your relationships into mirrors of sovereignty. Amara became a teacher in her village, guiding others to free themselves from relationships built on fear. Her wisdom spread, reminding all that true love is not a cage, but a current, carrying both souls further than they could ever go alone. So it must be with you. Do not confuse captivity with care. Seek relationships that celebrate your sovereignty, and you will know the freedom of love that sets you free. Chapter 21. The Art of Boundaries. In the sprawling forests of Aranor lived a healer named Arendor, renowned for his kindness. He gave tirelessly, food to the hungry, medicine to the ill, comfort to the grieving. Yet his body grew frail, his spirit weary, for he knew no boundary between his own needs and the needs of others. Like a river without banks, he spilled until nothing remained. One evening, as he sat beneath a great oak tree, he heard a voice in the rustling leaves. Even the forest has boundaries. The tree's roots do not steal from another's soil. The rivers carve their paths without drowning the land. To give without boundary is to destroy both yourself and what you serve. Arendor realized then that freedom requires limits. Boundaries are not walls of fear, but sacred lines of respect. Respect for the self and for others. Without them, you are consumed. With them, you thrive. The healer began a new practice. When asked for help, he paused first to listen inward. Do I have the strength to give? Does this honor me as well as them? Sometimes he said yes, sometimes no, but always with love. To his surprise, people respected him more, not less. His healing deepened, for it flowed from a place of balance rather than depletion. You too must remember that boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They define the space where your sovereignty lives. Without them, others' voices drown your own. With them, your freedom breathes, and your giving becomes sustainable. Ancient practice of drawing the sacred line. Before sleep, close your eyes and imagine a circle of light around your body. Whisper, "This is my sacred space. Only love may enter." Visualize this circle strengthening as you breathe, forming an energetic boundary that protects your sovereignty. If memories of people who drained you arise, imagine gently placing them outside the circle with compassion, saying, "I honor you, but I honor myself first." Fall asleep knowing that your boundaries will hold through the night, teaching your subconscious to carry them into waking life. Arendor's forest thrived because he no longer poured himself into emptiness. His healing became legendary, not because he gave endlessly, but because he gave wisely. People said he glowed with balance, his presence both strong and gentle, like the oak tree that had taught him the art of boundaries. Chapter 22. Silence as Sovereignty. In the bustling city of Dravam, noise was the currency of life. Merchants shouted across markets, Bells clanged from towers, and citizens filled every quiet corner with chatter, fearing the discomfort of stillness. Among them lived a scholar named Coriel, whose mind overflowed with words. He studied endlessly, spoke constantly, and filled his nights with thoughts so loud that sleep eluded him. Though admired for his brilliance, he felt hollow, as though his spirit had been drowned in the ceaseless tide of sound. One evening, weary of the noise, Coriel wandered beyond the city walls into the wilderness. There, for the first time in years, he heard nothing. The silence pressed against him, heavy and unfamiliar, and he trembled. At first his thoughts screamed louder, desperate to fill the void. Yet as hours passed, he began to notice something new. Beneath the surface of stillness there was a pulse, a rhythm older than words. He realized that silence was not emptiness, but presence, the voice of freedom itself. From that night, Coriel began a practice. Each evening he walked into the quiet woods, leaving books and conversations behind. At first it felt unbearable, but slowly he discovered treasures hidden in silence. He heard his own heartbeat guiding him, felt his spirit expand without interruption, and touched truths too subtle for words. What once frightened him became his sanctuary, and in silence he remembered who he truly was. You too live in a world afraid of quiet. Devices, conversations, obligations, all conspire to drown out the stillness where your freedom breathes. Yet sovereignty is impossible without silence. For in silence, you hear your soul's voice. In silence, you remember that you are not your thoughts, not the noise of the world, but the stillness beneath it all. Ancient practice of silent sovereignty. Before sleep, turn off every device, every sound, every distraction. Sit in stillness, no music, no words, no noise. Place your hand upon your heart and whisper only once, I rest in silence. I am free in stillness. Then close your eyes and breathe, no seeking to control thoughts, but letting them drift like leaves on a river until only stillness remains. Drift into sleep, wrapped in the vastness of silence, your subconscious bathed in the language of sovereignty beyond words. Coriel's city once mocked his nightly wanderings, yet soon people noticed a glow about him, a peace deeper than wisdom from books. One by one, others followed him into the woods, learning that silence was not emptiness, but sacred fullness, and the city of noise began to soften, for the people discovered the sovereign power of silence. So it must be for you. Do not fear quiet, enter it, for there lies the freedom no noise can disturb, the sovereignty of your stillness. Chapter 23. The Wild Soul Within. In the heart of the northern plains lived a young woman named Kaylin, raised to follow rules as rigid as the frozen rivers. From birth, she was taught to speak softly, to dress modestly, to suppress her laughter, and to bend her spirit to fit the mold of respectability. Yet deep within her chest, a wild drumbeat throbbed, calling her toward something untamed. One night, unable to bear the weight of obedience, she fled into the wilderness. The forest stretched before her, vast and alive with voices of wind and wolves. There, beneath the moon, she cried out, "Who am I, if not what they tell me to be?" From the shadows emerged a great stag, its antlers crowned with frost. It bowed its head and spoke, not in words, but in presence. You are wild. You are free. You are not theirs to shape. Kaylin followed the stag through the forest, where she learned the rhythms of her own untamed spirit. She ran barefoot, laughed loudly, sang with the rivers, and roared with the storms. She realized then that the soul is not born to be tamed. It is born to dance, to love, to create without apology. She returned to her village radiant, no longer fitting the mold, but shining with a freedom that could not be contained. You too carry a wild soul within, though you may have buried it beneath rules, judgments, and fears of rejection. Yet this wildness is not chaos. It is your authentic essence, longing to express itself. To deny it is to suffocate. To embrace it is to breathe. The truth is this: sovereignty means giving your wild soul permission to live, to laugh when you feel joy, to cry when you feel sorrow, to sing, dance, create, explore, not because it pleases others, but because it is who you are. Ancient practice of awakening, the wild soul. Before sleep, stand barefoot upon the earth if you can, or upon your floor if not. Close your eyes and sway gently, letting your body move as it wills. Whisper aloud, I release control. I honor the wild soul within me. Imagine your spirit leaping like fire, running like rivers, roaring like wind. As you lie down, hold this freedom in your chest, letting your dreams carry you into landscapes where your soul runs untamed. Kaylin's village tried at first to shame her, but soon her fire became irresistible. Others followed her into the wilderness, remembering their own laughter, their own wildness. The once rigid community blossomed with music, dance, and joy. For one woman's courage to embrace her wild soul had awakened the freedom of all. So it must be with you. Let go of taming. The wildness within is not weakness. It is your most authentic strength. When you honor it, you walk not only free, but fully alive. Chapter 24. The Infinite Playground. In a hidden valley, there lived a boy named Elias, who believed life was only duty. From morning to night he worked in the fields, carrying water, plowing soil, and following the commands of elders. He watched the river sparkle in sunlight, but never dared to play. He saw birds soar, but never spread his arms in mimicry. To him, life was a burden to be carried, never a joy to be lived. One day, while wandering along the hills, he found a circle of children laughing, chasing one another, building towers of stone, and leaping into the river with delight. Astonished, he asked, "How can you waste time with such nonsense?" A little girl laughed and said, "This is not waste. This is life. The world is an infinite playground. You have only forgotten how to play." That night, Elias dreamed of the earth as a vast playground where every star was a marble, every tree a swing, every moment an invitation to wonder. He woke transformed. The next day, he put down his tools and stepped into the river, splashing and laughing for the first time. In that laughter, he discovered a truth. Freedom is not only liberation from chains, it is the courage to play in the universe of infinite possibility. You, too, may have been taught to treat life only as struggle. Yet the soul was not born only to toil. It was born to delight, to explore, to create as children create, fearless, curious, joyful. The universe responds to play with abundance, for play is the language of creation. The truth is this: when you see life as burden, it becomes heavy. When you see life as playground, it becomes infinite. Freedom is found not only in seriousness, but in joy. Ancient practice of cosmic play. Before sleep, recall one thing that brought you joy as a child. Drawing, running, singing, imagining worlds unseen. Whisper, I return to the playground of the infinite. As you drift toward dreams, imagine yourself stepping onto a cosmic field where stars are toys, planets are swings, and galaxies invite you to play. Let laughter guide you into slumber, and let your subconscious remember that life is not a prison, but a playground. Elias's fields did not wither when he played. They flourished more, for he worked with joy instead of duty. His village, once somber, soon echoed with laughter as others joined him in rediscovering the art of play. They realized that the land itself responded not to toil alone, but to joy woven into the work. So it must be with you. Remember, the universe is vast, abundant, alive. It is not a taskmaster, but a playground. When you approach it with play, you open doors that duty alone could never unlock. In joy, you find infinite freedom. Chapter 25. Synchronicities of freedom. In the kingdom of Miralis, people believed that life was guided only by chance. They worked, traded, struggled, and dreamed, never noticing the threads weaving through their days. Among them was a wandering painter named Lucian, who carried canvases but little else. His art was striking, but he often despaired, asking, "What is the point of my journey? Where is the path I am meant to follow?" One afternoon, as he sat by the river, a feather drifted down from the sky, landing upon his canvas. Curious, he painted the feather, letting its delicate shape inspire his work. That evening, a merchant passed and saw the painting, declaring it the most beautiful he had ever seen. The merchant purchased the piece and commissioned more. From that day forward, feathers appeared wherever Lucian traveled, on the wind, in the streets, upon doorsteps. Each one led him to opportunity, connection, or inspiration. He began to see that his life was not random at all. It was a dance of synchronicities, guiding him toward freedom. You too are guided by threads of synchronicity, those mysterious alignments, those meaningful coincidences that defy logic. The right person calls at the right time, a phrase in a book mirrors your thoughts, a symbol appears in dreams, and then in waking life. These are not accidents, they are signs from the greater intelligence that weaves through all things. Synchronicities are whispers from the universe, reminding you that you are not lost, but led. Freedom means learning to see and trust these signs. When you dismiss them as coincidence, you close the door. When you honor them as guidance, you step into the flow where miracles unfold naturally. The synchronicities of freedom are breadcrumbs on your path, leading you toward your highest self. Lucian learned to follow the feathers. When one appeared, he paid attention. It might lead him to a town in need of art, a friend who became family, or a vision that transformed his style. His life became less of a struggle and more of a treasure hunt. The painter who once despaired now lived in awe, free to trust that the universe itself was his collaborator. Ancient practice of inviting synchronicity. Before sleep, whisper, "Show me a sign. Guide me in ways I will recognize." Visualize yourself walking along a path scattered with glowing symbols, feathers, stars, flowers, or anything that feels sacred to you. As you drift into dreams, imagine the universe preparing signs for your waking life. Upon waking, move through your day with awareness, watching for synchronicities. When they appear, whisper gratitude. This opens the channel wider, allowing the dance of freedom to weave even more clearly into your life. Lucian's story became legend, not because of his paintings alone, but because of the way he followed signs. People said, "He listens not only with ears but with soul." His life reminded them that destiny is not hidden. It speaks constantly through synchronicity. So it must be for you. Freedom is not found only in effort. It is discovered in trust, in awareness, in the courage to follow the signs laid before you. Life is speaking. Watch, listen, and walk the path that synchronicity reveals. Chapter 26. The Bridge of Gratitude. In the fertile valley of Aranon, harvests were rich, yet people complained constantly. Farmers grumbled about weather, traders lamented their profits, families bickered about what they lacked. Among them lived a woman named Isolde, who, though surrounded by abundance, felt imprisoned by longing for more. No matter what she received, it seemed never enough. One evening, a weary traveler knocked upon her door. She offered him bread and water, apologizing for its simplicity. Yet the traveler smiled with radiant joy. "This is a feast," he said, eating slowly as though savoring the finest meal. Confused, Isolde asked how he could be so content. He replied, "Gratitude is the bridge between where you are and the freedom you seek. When you give thanks, you discover you already live in abundance." That night, Isolde sat by candlelight, recalling all she had overlooked, the warmth of her hearth, the kindness of neighbors, the beauty of the valley itself. For the first time, her heart swelled with thankfulness. She felt lighter, freer, as though the chains of dissatisfaction had fallen away. Gratitude is not mere politeness. It is a frequency, a vibration that expands freedom. When you give thanks, your energy shifts. You stop dwelling on lack and begin to see the abundance already surrounding you. This shift opens the gates for more to flow, for the universe multiplies whatever you honor. To walk in gratitude is to walk across a bridge, leaving behind scarcity and stepping into liberation. Isolde began a nightly ritual of writing 3 things she was thankful for. At first, they were small: the taste of bread, the song of birds, the glow of firelight. Yet soon her days filled with treasures she had once ignored. Her prosperity grew, but more importantly, her heart grew unshakable. Even when storms came, gratitude anchored her spirit in freedom. Ancient practice of gratitude's bridge. Before sleep, close your eyes and recall 3 blessings of your day. Speak them aloud, beginning with "I am grateful for." Let each one expand in your chest like a warm flame. Whisper then, "I walk the bridge of gratitude. I step into freedom, drift into dreams carrying this vibration, allowing your subconscious to multiply the abundance you honored." Isolde's valley transformed as others followed her practice. Soon, complaints quieted, replaced by songs of thanks. The once restless community discovered that gratitude did not require wealth, it created it. People who once felt poor now felt rich in spirit, and with that richness came prosperity of all kinds. So it must be with you. Gratitude is not small, it is the greatest multiplier of freedom. Walk its bridge daily, and you will discover that you already dwell in abundance beyond measure. Chapter 27. The Freedom of Forgiveness. In the mountain village of Elthar, grudges were carried like stones in sacks. People remembered every insult, every betrayal, every wound. The weight of these memories bent their backs, dimmed their eyes, and hardened their hearts. Among them lived a shepherd named Theron, who carried the heaviest sack of all. Years ago, a close friend had deceived him, costing him his flock and livelihood. Though he rebuilt, he never forgave, clutching his bitterness like a weapon. Yet the weapon cut only him. One night, Theron dreamed he was climbing a steep mountain with his sack of stones. Each step grew harder, the burden heavier, until he collapsed. A luminous figure appeared and said, "You are not climbing with your enemy's betrayal. You are climbing with your own refusal to release it. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. It is the key that unlocks your freedom." Theron awoke shaken. At dawn, he carried his sack to the river. One by one, he cast each stone into the rushing water, whispering, "I release." As the sack emptied, his body grew lighter, his breath easier, his heart unbound. He realized forgiveness did not mean excusing what was done. It meant refusing to carry its weight any longer. You, too, may hold stones of resentment, anger, or betrayal. Yet these do not punish those who wronged you, they imprison you. To forgive is not to approve. It is to reclaim your freedom from the weight of the past. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a release that allows you to step unburdened into sovereignty. Theron, once bent by bitterness, walked upright for the first time in years. His eyes shone, his spirit lightened, and even his health improved. Villagers asked how he had changed, and he told them, "I forgave not because they deserved it, but because I deserved to be free." Ancient practice of releasing stones. Before sleep, close your eyes and imagine holding a stone in your hand. This stone represents one resentment you still carry. Whisper, "I forgive, I release, I choose freedom." Visualize placing the stone into a flowing river, watching it drift away into the night. Let your body feel the lightness of release as you drift into dreams, your subconscious clearing old burdens to make space for new joy. Theron's act of forgiveness rippled through the village. Others carried their stones to the river, and soon the entire community walked lighter, no longer bound by the past. The village of heavy sacks became the village of free hearts. so it must be with you. Do not carry what poisons you. Lay it down. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the highest act of strength. In forgiving, you do not free them. You free yourself. Chapter 28. The Quantum Leap. In the kingdom of Atheron, people believed change could only come slowly, like the steady growth of trees or the patient carving of rivers through stone. Yet among them was a young weaver named Elira, who longed for more than gradual shifts. Her heart pulsed with the certainty that freedom did not need years to unfold. It could arrive in a single breath, a single choice, a single leap. Elira spent her days weaving cloth, thread by thread, her life mirroring her work, steady, predictable, safe. But inside she felt a restless spark, whispering, "There is more, and it can be yours now." At night she dreamed of standing at the edge of a great canyon, one foot on the ground of her past, the other longing to step into the air. Across the abyss shimmered a new world of light, abundance, and freedom, yet she hesitated, fearing the fall. One evening, a mysterious traveler entered her workshop. He watched her weave and asked, "Why do you remain in threads of limitation when you carry the pattern of infinity?" Elira replied, "Because change takes time." The traveler smiled gently and said, "Time is only the fabric you choose to weave, but freedom exists outside of time. Leap, and the pattern will rearrange instantly." Then he was gone, leaving behind only a single golden thread. That night, Elira placed the golden thread upon her loom and whispered, "I am ready." In her dream, she stood once more at the canyon's edge. This time, instead of hesitating, she leapt. She expected to fall, but the golden thread extended beneath her, forming a bridge that carried her safely to the other side. She awoke knowing the truth. The quantum leap is real. Transformation does not always require slow unfolding. It can come in an instant when you align your energy fully with freedom. You too may believe change must be slow, that you must wait years to grow, to heal, to manifest. But the soul knows another truth. A single moment of surrender, a single declaration of sovereignty can shift everything. Time bends when consciousness leaps. What once seemed impossible can arrive as suddenly as lightning, illuminating the night. Elira began living differently. She no longer waited for permission, for gradual progress, for safe steps. When her heart called her, she leapt into new work, into bold creations, into love. Each leap carried her further than years of hesitation ever had. She became a symbol in Atheron, showing that freedom is not earned by waiting, it is claimed by leaping. Ancient practice of the leap. Before sleep, close your eyes and imagine standing at the edge of a canyon. On one side lies your current life. On the other lies the life you desire most. Abundant, free, sovereign. Whisper aloud, "I leap into my freedom now." Then visualize yourself stepping boldly across, carried by a golden thread of trust. Let this vision guide you into dreams where your subconscious rehearses the leap, aligning your energy to instant transformation. Elira's life became legend. Villagers once afraid of change began leaping, and their community blossomed with inventions, creations, and joy that had once seemed impossible. They learned that while patience has its place, freedom often arrives in leaps, not steps. So it must be with you. Do not fear the leap. Trust that when you step into the unknown, the golden thread will appear. For freedom is not always a path. It is often a leap of faith. Chapter 29. Becoming the Embodiment of Freedom. In the hills of Valoria, there was a teacher named Meron, who spent years studying sacred texts. He memorized wisdom, recited prayers, and spoke endlessly of liberation. Yet though his words were true, his life remained heavy. He worried, doubted, and lived cautiously. Students followed him for his knowledge, but none felt transformed. One day, a child asked him, If freedom is real, why don't you shine with it? The question pierced his heart. That night, Meron sat in silence, realizing that he had mistaken knowledge for embodiment. He knew the language of freedom, but had not lived it. His wisdom was in his mouth, not in his bones. He whispered to the stars, "How do I become what I teach?" In answer, he dreamed of a river. On one bank stood a man reciting words about swimming. On the other, a man dove into the water, laughing as the current carried him. The dream whispered, "Freedom is not studied. It is lived. Become it, and you will radiate it without words." From that day, Meron changed. He no longer only spoke of freedom, he walked it. He rose each morning with gratitude, made choices boldly, embraced joy without fear. His students began to notice. Without long sermons, they felt transformed simply by being near him. His presence radiated sovereignty, as though freedom itself lived in his breath. You too may know freedom in thought, in concept, in words. But true sovereignty arises when it flows through your every action, gesture, and choice. To embody freedom means you no longer need to declare it. It speaks through your presence. You become a living beacon, inspiring others not by instruction, but by example. Ancient practice of embodiment. Before sleep, reflect upon your day. Ask yourself, did I live as freedom today or only think of it? Choose one small act you can embody tomorrow, speaking your truth, resting without guilt, choosing boldly. Whisper aloud, I embody freedom in every step. Visualize yourself walking through a golden light, every movement radiating sovereignty. Let your dreams rehearse the embodiment, programming your subconscious to live as the freedom you seek. Meron's legacy endured long after his passing. People said he needed no books, no sermons. His life was his teaching. He showed them that freedom is not a philosophy, it is a way of being. So it must be with you. Do not only speak of freedom, embody it. Let it shine through your presence, your choices, your very breath. For when you embody freedom, you not only liberate yourself, you liberate everyone who witnesses you. Chapter 30. The Awakened Dreamer's Graduation. In the city of Solinar, where towers touched the clouds, there lived a seeker named Lyra, who had journeyed through countless teachings. She had studied rituals of gratitude, the language of dreams, the practices of breath, the art of forgiveness. She had followed the call of freedom across valleys and mountains, gathering wisdom like jewels. Yet as she stood surrounded by her treasures, she felt one final truth. Knowledge alone is not completion. She longed not for more lessons, but for integration, the weaving of all she had learned into the tapestry of her life. One night, beneath the silver light of the full moon, she dreamed of a vast hall lined with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different practice: the mirror of silence, the mirror of desire, the mirror of rebellion, the mirror of gratitude. As she gazed at them, they began to merge into one great mirror. In it, she no longer saw techniques or teachings. She saw herself, whole, radiant, sovereign. A voice whispered, "The dreamer has awakened. You are the freedom you sought." Lyra awoke with tears of recognition. She realized that graduation did not mean the end of learning, but the beginning of living as the embodiment of it all. She no longer separated the practices. They flowed together like rivers meeting the sea. Gratitude infused her rebellion. Silence deepened her play. Forgiveness fueled her embodiment. Everything became one dance of sovereignty. You too have gathered wisdom, practiced rituals, touched glimpses of freedom. But now comes the integration, the recognition that you are no longer a seeker. You are an awakened dreamer. Freedom is not outside you, not in distant practices. It lives within you, breathing through you, radiating as you. The journey does not end. It transforms into life itself. Ancient practice of integration. Before sleep, sit quietly and place your hands upon your heart. Whisper, All wisdom is within me. I am the awakened dreamer. Visualize each practice you have learned as a star above you. One by one, let them descend into your body, silence into your mind, gratitude into your chest, forgiveness into your hands, desire into your belly, rebellion into your feet. Feel them merge into one radiant light, filling your entire being. Drift into sleep shining as the embodiment of freedom itself. Lyra lived the rest of her days not as a seeker, but as a creator. Her life became her teaching. Her very presence awakened others, not through instruction, but through resonance. People said she was the dreamer who no longer dreamed of freedom. She lived it. So it must be with you. You have reached your graduation as the awakened dreamer. The practices you have gathered are not separate. They are one within you. You are not waiting for freedom. You are freedom. You are the dreamer, and you are the dream.